Says his girlfriend is exactly like his sister, Debbie. Debbie says her fiance is very much like Brother Joe. Wayne and Wendell Tracy share almost everything except girlfriends. That's where their trust ends and sibling competition begins. For Stephen Thomas, life with an older, emotionally disturbed brother sent him into therapy and made him fear having children of his own. Brothers and sisters, best friends and worst enemies. They might teach us how to love or ignite us into hate. Whatever the reaction, the relationship packs a wallop. I'm Tom Bergeron, and this is People Are Talking. That's always an audience that applauds without even being prompted. That's a good sign, especially for a Friday as we get going into the weekend. We have a lot of young brothers and sisters here, in addition to... How many of you, again, in the audience are brothers and sisters? Okay, so we have no only children in the audience at all. Joining us on the panel, you've met our guests, and Joe, Joe had no idea that this would be a side effect of his employment here. Joe is the one who handles the elite WBZ commissary, where we do our fine dining here at Group W. And Debbie, this guy not only is your brother, but he is more of a disciplinarian than your dad, is what I've heard.
Very much so.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. He was very overprotective as a brother. Very, very much so. And
Is it, you're talking past tense now?
well, he still is.
Still.
He still is, yeah.
Oh yeah, still.
But growing
Now,
up...
you have sort of that, you're pretty sure you're right, look. Right? Because look at you.
Oh.
I like to read body language, and you're like this. Joe's going, yeah, that's right, I am.
Well, I'm very laid back.
Uh-huh.
My sister, she's outgoing, very outgoing.
So she could get herself into trouble.
Oh yeah, I've seen her at baseball games. She come over to see me, and these guys, 4 rows back, Debbie, how you doing, how you doing? I'm looking at it, where'd you meet these guys? Oh, in the beer line. You know, I'm not that type of person. She's very outgoing. I'm very laid back, reserved.
Uh-huh. So do you tend to pass judgment on the people?
I do, because I really don't know them. She says, oh, you don't know them. How you get, you know, you got to get to know these people by talking to them. I said, well, if I don't, I judge on first appearance.
What about her fiance?
Mike, well, he's in the audience today, and
where's Mike?
He's over there in the.
Oh, okay.
He's all right. He'll do.
Right.
That's hardly the type of glowing endorsement they would use in a trade paper ad, you know.
No.
He's all right.
No, he's very good to my sister.
Uh-huh.
As long as she's happy, and he treats her well.
Do you think he's like you?
In certain situations, you know, we both have the same attitude, outlook on life. You know, take it one day at a time. I think we're both reserved, but we have our moments. I'm sure she could tell you, we have our moments.
Is he like your brother?
Yeah, they're very much so alike. Michael's overprotective of his sister, and as I said, Joey's very overprotective of me, and they're both very generous and caring people.
Now,
very sensitive also.
Yeah, and this is under this sort of exterior here. I heard that when you told him you were getting married, you told Joe that he cried.
He did.
Well, I didn't cry in front of my parents. I got choked up, but on the way on the way back.
There weren't real tears. There were those glycerin things you buy at the.
Yeah. On the way back from my girlfriend, so it just caught me up. It's my only sister.
Yeah.
She's getting married. She's leaving the family, and I just started getting emotional about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Someone's
it bothered
taking me away.
Yeah.
Now
Like leaving the nest, so to speak.
Now your girlfriend is like your sister.
Oh, well, she grew up with 4 brothers,
Uh-huh.
and she's very independent.
Yeah.
And the way her outlook on life is unbelievable. You know, girls say, how can you do this? I grew up with 4 brothers. I know all about this. And
Now, are you as protective with your girlfriend as you are with your sister, given that they're alike?
Not really. Because, you know, you got to base it on trust. So when she goes out...
Obviously, you trust your girlfriend more than your sister, is what we're getting at.
Well, I don't know about that, but she's very independent. She's confident of herself.
Did either of you ever think, in your wildest imaginings, that the person that you would maybe fall in love with, and in your case plan to marry, would be like your brother or your sister?
I never thought so. I figured I'd find a person who is more quiet than I am. I'd be like the protector, looking out for this one I'm with right now. God, she does what she wants. I just sit back and
This one you're with right now, so we're not expecting any long-term stuff here.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
What is it, Friday already?
All right, we'll give it till Christmas. We'll give it till Christmas.
Okay. Let's welcome again Wayne and Wendell. It's pretty obvious, identical twins here. And I would imagine that as identical twins, there is a tendency for people to regard you as almost one person.
Definitely.
Is that true?
Yes, we don't have any, there's no personality unless we make it, because everybody else is always saying, well, gee, I was talking to, well, one of you. So it's like, well, I told you about this. No, you didn't. Don't you fix this? You know, I work in electronics sometimes, and it's like, they'll hand him the screwdriver to fix the TV set.
So with everybody else treating you as almost one person, how have you come to treat each other as brothers?
We are not just independent, I call it like sort of like a twin-dependent thing, because we're separate people. We've more or less accepted ourselves as he's in electronics, I'm into writing, but at the same time, when we need each other, he's the only person I can count on for the most part. If I had to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go for an emergency, he's the only one I can actually stand by and say, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, he'll yell at me, but he'll be there. I've had plenty of friends who've just fallen by the wayside. You want to count on them for something emotionally or whatever, and they've never been there. But he's always been there. And so it has been very helpful.
Now, I get the sense from Joe and Deb that you really educated each other about, you know, how to pick a boyfriend or a girlfriend and what the guys are really after. I think you told Debbie about, right, from the male perspective.
Yeah.
How is that? Have you been able to help each other through relationship problems as twins? Or?
So once in a great while, like in high school, we were both very laid back, shy. People didn't quite know what to think of us, unless we went to like a party situation where there were a whole bunch of people to fall back on. So if I didn't want to walk up to a girl and say hi or something like that, he'd usually break the ice. You know, he'd have a class with her about 2 periods before, and he'd say, you know, my brother really likes you. Well, why doesn't he come up and talk to me? But every once in a while, it would work out that way, where the other one, or if a girlfriend doesn't understand what I'm going through at the moment, they'll go to him, because the only one who's gonna know. You know, as close as I am to my mother, the only one who really knows me is him, because we're cut from the same mold, as it were. So
Another thing is that we more or less tend to differ on the types of girls that we have. For instance, he somehow ends up with these short, petite, 4-foot-nothing people, and I like the people, the women who are sort of like 5'8", 5'9", and sometimes even 6 feet, 6'4", so long as she doesn't wear a 4-inch heel.
Have there ever been times when one girlfriend of one of you thought the other brother was kind of cute too?
Well, cute, yes. We went out with one girl. That's only happened actually once. He went out with her, and she invited a girlfriend along. They went to a movie, and that was the end of the date. I went out with her, and I don't know, we were gone 5, 6 hours, something foolish like that, and I got the kiss and hug at the end of the night. So it's like, in that case, she liked us both, but I was bold enough to just ask for a kiss. I said, well, hey, you know, I don't know if I'm going to get a second shot with this girl, which one she likes better, so. But that's only one occasion.
Or even if she can tell who's who.
But for the most part, we stay away. You know, if he says, I'd like to go after this girl, or she's, you know, I think that she and I could have something together, I'll back off.
You sound like, both sets of you here sound like such good friends to each other. Have there been times when you've been each other's worst enemies?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Such as?
Oh, when we were growing up, my brother was 4 years younger than me. My sister and him were closer. We had a 4-year age difference apart. And her and I used to fight like cats and dogs. Oh.
Used to fight a lot.
But she used to get me in so much trouble. She used to be the leader.
Yeah, I was the leader, he was the follower. And when we were younger, when we used to, you know, I'm going to tell Mom you did that, you know, I'd go ahead and do it. But as we got older and we both had, you know, little things on each other, like, I'm going to tell Mom what you did, and
So
I'll
we bring
say,
up
you know.
past experiences,
Yeah, so it was
kinda-
even, you know, and we'd fight.
Get
Oh,
the
yeah.
file cards out, right?
Oh, yeah.
How about the two of you? Worst enemy times?
What day is today? How many times have you had it this week?
Only about maybe 4 times that I can count as far as being putting on the gloves time. We don't fight physically anyway, because we'll kill each other. As far as emotionally goes, if we have an argument, we both know each other too well, then we'll bring up the real dirt, and we'll get into some pretty good things, but it only lasts about a half an hour.
Is that sounding familiar for anybody out here? Bring out the real, I want to get a couple people who, where's my little trusty microphone?
Right there beside you.
Where is it? Okay. Almost bit me, didn't it? Okay. Over here, you were nodding. Familiar territory?
Yeah, I have a brother who's 4 years older than I am, and we used to, when we were little, fight all the time. But when I got to be about 16, we got to be the best of friends, and we're now really good friends.
Looking back, what do you think was the major influence that that relationship has had in your life then?
The major.
Do you think that it made, as we're talking with Joe and Deb, it appears that their relationship impacted the people that they see or marry, in Debbie's case? Was there anything that profound with your brother?
No, I don't think so. I'm from a large family. There's 11 of us in our family. So, you know, some of us get along better than others.
You handle subways easier.
Right.
Yeah, that's about the extent there. Have you ever thought about what it would be like if the other was not around at all?
Sometimes. When you're, especially in the fight situations, it would be like, why am I fighting about this stupid, you know, little thing? Or we shared a room for most of our lives, so it was like, if I was an only child, I'd have my own room. If I was older than him by about 5 or 6 years, I'd have my own room or my own space by now. And every once in a while, you get the feeling when you're turning around, you're stepping on his foot. But that's usually the way it is, because we do so much together that we, you know.
We have to break. When we come back, we're going to broaden the discussion. If you are a brother or sister whose sibling has had to deal with physical challenges in their lives, or emotional ones, you have had to deal with them too, as you probably are well aware. That can be an opportunity to bring out the best in you. It can bring a lot of pain with it as well. We'll talk about that when we continue our discussion with brothers and sisters, oh my, after this.
She's at it again, Agatha, serving those new sauces with everything.
Always knew she was wild. Look, there's real fruit in it.
She'd do anything for excitement.
Introducing Cran Fruit Sauces, an exciting new brand from Ocean Spray. Juicy blends of crushed cranberries with ripe red raspberries or strawberries, sunny oranges or apples.
Ooh, now the kid's got it.
Not the child.
New, resealable Ocean Spray Cran Fruit Sauce. The possibilities are delicious.
Is it a challenge to keep things neat and clean at your home? Now, Lechmere brings you the amazing Bissell Carpet Machine Plus. You can own your own machine and clean carpets, upholstered furniture, your car, and so much more. The Carpet Machine Plus shoots warm cleaning solution, while powerful suction pulls out liquid and dirt, yet it won't soak carpet or upholstery. Clean your entire home anytime you like and get professional-looking results. Own a Bissell Carpet Machine Plus. Only $159.99 at Lechmere.
We know Dunkin' Donuts are always fresh and come in more varieties than supermarkets.
Excuse me.
But we like to make sure.
Do you have delicious chocolate frosted donuts like Dunkin' Donuts?
No.
Do you have 5 kinds of jelly donuts?
No. Ma'am.
Were these made fresh this morning?
No.
Good.
Dunkin' Donuts. Up to 52 varieties made fresh day and night. No supermarket can say that.
What kind of fish goes crunch?
What kind of fish is fun too much? What kind of fish do we love a bunch? Gotta be bunch of crunch.
When you're fishing for a really big crunch, crunch into some Bunch of Crunch. It's the fish stick from Freenor that tastes as good as it sounds. And it sounds pretty good.
Let's munch a bunch of crunch.
Also new from Freenor, Bunch of Crunch microwave fish sandwiches.
Stealing this child's Apple Jacks. Well, I didn't have lunch yet. Welcome to the panel with me, if you would. Arlene Paiva, who is married with a son and grandson, who has an older brother who is sitting right here, and he'll talk to us if I cajole him enough, I'm sure. Stephen Thomas, an independent writer and producer. He's married and has an older brother. Stephen, who we met briefly in the open of the show. Your older brother is emotionally disabled, is that right?
Emotionally disturbed.
Disturbed, yeah.
Right.
that impacted you quite profoundly, from what I understand, to the point that you sought therapy yourself and for a while feared having children of your own.
Right. Well, when I was growing up, sometimes I used to deny that I had a brother because it took so hard to explain his condition. And one thing that he taught me was the fact that people who are emotionally disturbed or have brain damage are gray issues. There are a lot of gray issues to those people. They can be quite bright, quite brilliant. They don't have to be pitied. They can be quite independent on some levels, but there's gray issues. So he taught me a lot about people who have that problem.
Listening to our guests from the first segment, does that bring up any feeling of envy? They obviously have close relationships.
Yeah, well, because Bill had this problem in the 50s, they didn't have many facilities to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to go all the way to Pennsylvania, to Devereaux, and get that treatment. And I also got angry because he would always go to the psychologist and get sour balls or something to, like, and I never got the candy.
He would also get a lot of attention, and not just from the psychologist.
And I was always, unintentionally, I was always sort of felt that I couldn't have a problem or something like that because there was just so much worriment for him, so I had to be pretty perfect.
Why did you fear having children?
Because I didn't want, I thought maybe it might be genetic, and I thought, gee, I'm going to have to take care of my brother when my parents pass away. I don't want another child, you see, because when my parents pass away, I will have to take care of him somehow.
Is this in a relationship that, I mean, even in the best of relationships, as we've heard, you think about, gee, what it would be like if this person didn't exist? You thought about that?
Well, sometimes he didn't exist for me because I denied that he was there when he wasn't there. And now that he does, I only see it from a very practical, responsible level, not from just a brother sharing stories and stuff. And once in a while, I've been trying to do that more lately.
Now,
just to get more relaxed.
Arlene, for you, what's the nature of your disability?
Well, the classy name is osteogenesis imperfecta.
What's that mean in real English?
I fall apart easy. My bones break. And when I was a little kid, they didn't have all the help, all the support that they have nowadays for handicapped children.
So your brother was a large part of that support for you?
Yeah, and he didn't know it, and I didn't even know it. I didn't realize it in hindsight. But I wasn't allowed to go to public school. The schools would not accept the responsibility. So I had a private tutor. Because I broke so often, I was usually in bed. I didn't even walk much until I was 10, maybe even 12. Because as soon as I'd start to walk, I'd break something. And then I started school when I was about 14. But my brother was my outside world. And
did you know this at the time?
No, I'm getting quite an education.
I figure he would not admit how important he is anyway, because he's not that way. He figures it's a lot of cat fat. But the world he brought me was a little tippy.
A little tippy?
A little
what does
tippy.
that mean, a little tippy?
She's a wacko, and she's blaming it on me.
Absolutely. He'd like to think it's in the genes, and I don't believe it. It was my environment. All his friends were insane, and everything he said it had to be true, because my brother said it. My brother wouldn't lie to me, right?
Did you?
That's never.
Oh.
Never lied to her.
No,
And
that's the
of course-
biggest one right there.
And naturally, being a little kid, the one thing in your mind is you want to get well. And the way to get well is to eat the right things, and can't get it back, but at that point in my life, I didn't have a good appetite. So my wonderful brother, as good an influence as he was on me, was not an angel. He was a prankster. And how do you improve your appetite? He said, if you eat soap before dinner. So, as I said, my brother wouldn't lie. So when I washed my hands, I ate some bubbles. I didn't have any dinner that night. And I didn't learn that my brother does these things. To this day, he can do it. And I'll think, 5 minutes later, oh no, he did it again.
He's always been one of your chief sources of support and inspiration and all of that, and yet in romance, unlike Joe and Debbie, you went the complete opposite. You deliberately sought someone who was opposite from your brother.
Well, the more I thought about that, the producer asked me that, and physically, yes, my brother was tall and blonde, blue-eyed. All the men that I ever found attractive were shorter, dark-haired, dark-eyed. But basically, my brother was a hard worker. My brother was dependable. There's no harder worker than my husband.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that way, their guts were similar. Their exterior, no, very different.
Do you ever, I'm curious for Stephen, do you ever look back and wish that all that pain hadn't gotten in the way, the anger, the resentment?
Yeah, because, you know, there were times where I could have enjoyed Billy a lot more, my brother, if I didn't always think that he caused a lot of problems, obviously, because that blocks a lot of emotions from happening, or just a natural
Who are we looking at? This is you and your brother.
Right, and my wife, Karen, in the middle. And that's my brother on the right. And Billy, to this day, is living for the first time outside of home, but for a long time. He's 41. He was living at home for a long time. And now he's just been able to get out through welfare to live on his
And
own.
you've been able to get out from under your fear of having children, have you, through?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I worked that out. And also, I just become a little more mature about the whole process. But it took a while.
Listening to a relationship that has evolved much, how has yours evolved, our four first guests? How have you changed in your relationship to each other? Joe, Deb?
You want to answer that? Well, I think our relationship's changed since I went off to college. I wasn't around as much to keep an eye on her, and I felt, you know, being away from
And
each other.
Debbie probably breathed a
She's
sigh of
probably-
relief on that score, huh?
Well, she got the bigger room when I went off to college, so that was one of the advantages she liked about that. But we were apart, but not together. But we, you know, we used to talk on the phone. But
I
when we
used to
come
go
out,
see him at school. I used
yeah,
to
she'd
go down
come
there a
down.
lot.
We were never in high school. I'd be like, "Stay away from me, stay away
He
from me."
was. He didn't want nothing to do with me. You know, he was overprotective, but yet, you know, if I used to go near him, he'd be like, you know, go away.
Because to this day, she'll be in a bar or restaurant, she'll come out and throw hugs and kisses to me. I'm like, stay away, people are watching, people are watching. I'm not like that.
Yeah, my brother's not either. He's not demonstrative. That's another thing. My husband is not demonstrative. The more after I was given that question, I realized how similar these two clowns are, my husband and my brother. But one thing my brother did do, I know I'm getting you off the track,
It's all right, go ahead.
but I threatened I was going to do that anyway. One of the things that he did do, nowadays, if you have a disability, you are physically challenged and all these marvelous terms. Well, I grew up crip. Perfectly acceptable word, because I went to a school for the handicapped and we were crips. There were two kind of people, norms and crips. I was a crip. And I didn't walk on crutches.
Both you folks have the same thing, though. You saying your brother at that time frame and here in the
Right.
same time frame,
Yeah.
the
Very
people
similar, yeah.
just weren't aware or
Yeah, they
couldn't
didn't.
handle it.
They couldn't handle it,
And
and
there also weren't the facilities to help.
wasn't exposed.
people didn't-
People weren't exposed to
No.
that type of
Our own
people
parents were
before,
the
so
same.
they
They
feared them.
didn't know
They
what
didn't
to
let
do.
us out of the closet.
Right.
I heard that when you were off in the service and
Oh,
the
this-
doctors were telling you to have your legs amputated.
That seemed to be the only solution to how they would keep me going.
And I just, because we have to break, I just want to understand this fairly rapidly, that the doctor said we can give you new legs, you'll be able to dance. You graciously said, when I come back, I will teach you to dance without these operations. And did he?
I reminded him a year or so ago. I said, you were going to teach me to dance.
You have a lesson coming up one of these days. We'll be right back. Such a nice story. And he didn't get you
I got it.
What?
Alaska. The game of dare.
Squeeze another player tightly.
Answer wrong and you might have to
Unbutton your clothes and do them up again.
How far will she go?
Proposition the player on your left.
How far will he go? In Dare, the new game where you answer a question or do an outrageous dare.
Take a shower.
with your clothes on. There, how far will you go to win?
All the way.
Willie, look at this. There's something big happening at Rent Center.
What? It's the biggest event in Rent-A-Center history. The guaranteed lowest price on a Sanyo home entertainment center loaded with a stereo color TV, VCR, and complete stereo system, all in this custom cabinet with one remote control. Only $25.99 a week.
Hey, Lester, this sounds great. Let's go. Lester. Lester. Did he leave without me?
For the guaranteed lowest price, call Rent-A-Center today.
My son loves taking my grandson fishing. Makes sense. He's a seafood manager at Star Market. A walking, talking encyclopedia of fish. Knows a good deal, too.
Fish for dinner tonight, and it's gonna be so good.
This week at Star, get great deals on fresh cod fillets, $2.49 a pound, and fresh Florida Calico Bay scallops, $3.99 a pound.
You promised me we would have fish.
I'm a very good fisherman.
And how come we're eating hot dogs?
All your favorite stars are here to play.
Who is it?
They're Hollywood's hottest quick draw celebrities.
A couple of Van Goghs in here, probably, I'm sure.
Playing in a game that's fast and fun.
This is a cheat.
This is a treat.
So picture yourself along with these famous faces and play along on Win, Lose, or Draw.
Moving to 4 p.m., Monday, October 3rd.
Living Through a Heart Transplant, tonight at 6 on TV4.
Joining us now is David Treadway, is a psychologist and the co-director of the Extern Family Therapy Program in Newton, also a host of a radio show on WGBH Radio called The Parenting Project. Welcome to our discussion. And I think we have a phone call that you might be able to help us out with here. So let's go to the phones right now. Hi, you're on People Are Talking. Hello, you're on the air. Hello?
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
This is Laura. I'm calling from Connecticut.
Hi, Laura.
Basically, my comment is I'm an only child. I have 5 step-siblings and 1 half-sibling. My boyfriend comes from a family of 11. My question is, any of the people on the program ever wish that they were an only child, and if they have step-siblings, do their relationships differ with them?
Does anybody wish they were an only child? And for the audience, too. Yeah, over here? Yeah?
I often did as a girl.
And this is your younger sister?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's common, though, if you have a younger sister. She's always following you around and things, and then in retrospect, I'm glad you're not.
Mm-hmm. Have you, now, you say you're an only child. You've got a lot of step-siblings and half-siblings and such. That never really made you feel other than an only child, Laura?
No, it didn't. My step-siblings were all older than I am, and I didn't find my half-sister until last year. I've only known my biological father for about 5 years now, so it took me a while to find her. It never really did make me feel any different. I usually just grew up alone with my mom. I didn't mind it, but I certainly don't want to have an only child.
Okay. Thank you for the call. David, in terms of what you have found, are we overstating the case to say that these relationships between brothers and sisters, whether good or bad, are powerful?
I think the key is the fact that it doesn't matter whether they're good or bad, that they're powerful. And basically, if you listen to everybody, people have the dream that their sibling relationships will be warm, nurturing friendships. It's sort of like you two talk about it. You know, you rely on yourselves. It's sort of like when the rest of the world's going sour, you two are going to be there for each other. But in reality, sibling relationships go through lots of ebbs and flows, and there's plenty of times when people really aren't friends at all. They're actively, basically out of sorts. And the reason for that's pretty simple. Basically, siblings are always being compared to each other. You're not yourself just as a self, just as the only child.
And you don't have to be a twin.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a twin. You're always in a state of you're more than, less than, different than your brother or sister. So the old-fashioned notion of sibling rivalry is built in. It's unavoidable. The other thing that's unavoidable, as you'll see just from listening to folks, is siblings develop different roles.
There's the sibling that takes care of, you know, this guy takes care of Arlene on some level.
Oh, no, I didn't. No, he ignored me as much as possible.
It sounds like he did a little bit of both, actually.
Yeah, he did.
But
Yes,
but you
you're
get you
right.
get different roles. You get a father figure and a younger daughter figure there. You get people playing different roles, and thus they're set up against each other on some level. And in adult life, when you find yourself in adult life, it's sort of like rediscovering a part of you that perhaps you've lost, because then you begin to discover, you know, what was your life? What was your childhood like?
And it's not always a pleasant discovery, I would think. In the case that you were talking about, where your brother, because of your brother, you feared having children, and you found yourself...
I felt like an only child. She was saying that she wanted to be an only child. So did I. I often said that I was, just to make the whole explanation about this gray area about Billy and all this kind of stuff. So I didn't have to talk about it. It was too much drawing attention to what I could go wrong with me. I thought, oh, they'll find out. So I was always in this constant feeling of being found out.
It's having an interesting discussion with two members of the audience. We have a youngest child here and an oldest child here, and I thought, Mr. Naivete here, I thought, being the youngest, like our two sisters up here, you get all the attention, all the love, and you are the envy of your older brothers and sisters.
Never.
No?
No. It's, I don't know, there's like a competition constantly, all the time. And no matter what you do, you have to struggle that much harder to prove yourself because you're the youngest.
How many older brothers and sisters?
I had 4 older sisters and a brother.
And you did not get all the little extra kudos and love and
They
attention?
thought I did, but I didn't.
Who thought you did? Your parents or they
Sisters.
did? Oh, so you got no sympathy from them either.
Right.
Now, as the oldest, you felt your role was similar to Joe's. The leader?
They expect a lot from you.
The kids do?
Yeah.
What about your parents?
Yeah, I think they expect it too.
Did that ever rankle you that your parents, while nurturing the younger ones, expected you to be almost on a peer level with them?
Yeah, I always feel like you're being picked on.
Let's go to the phone. Go ahead,
I think
Dave.
the key is that each role has its pluses and minuses. And basically, the other siblings tend to oftentimes be a little bit jealous of the pluses. Like the older one always gets to do more, etc., and the younger one's always spoiled.
Grass is
the
always
role
greener.
you're in doesn't always feel like the best role. In fact, it frequently doesn't.
All right, down here. Go ahead.
I'd like to add to the positive side of the comparisons. I come from a family of only twins. I have a twin brother and twin sisters. And there's a positive aspect. I mean, in hindsight, you can say that it was a struggle, the comparisons that we received. On the other hand, it facilitated our way of getting to know who we were. Yes, it was in relationship to the other person, but we learned to figure out who we were very quickly as we were being compared.
You were forced to define your identity in a way that others wouldn't have to.
We didn't need to have a thing as far as identity crisis or anything like that. We have a younger sister, 7 years old, 7 years younger, and she was always the person who was probably felt left alone. She never really had anybody to call her buddy. We were always there. When she would come into an event that we were doing, we didn't want her around. And she tried to get into the clique. She would not be able to get into that clique.
At times like that, when it feels like you're either the leader and everybody expects something from you, or you're not getting all that you need, or you're trying to fit everybody in, does getting away help sometimes? Just get away from the family?
Once in a while, I find myself like if we spend so much time together in different aspects of our life, you know, we volunteer together, we work together sometimes and so forth, that when I am alone, I find myself talking to him. He's not in the room. But I'm answering his question as though he were answering it, and that's just one of the little quirks you develop. It's like, well, what would Wendell do in this case? And you go over and do it, and afterwards, you don't do things like that. Like if Wendell and I change habits on my mother for, I don't know, a day, a week or something like that, or over the phone, she'll go, well, you stop that, because, you know, he acts like this, and I act the exact opposite, and all of a sudden we're switching roles on her.
All right. I want to continue that discussion, but I want to sneak in this phone call before we have to break. Hi, you're on People Are Talking.
Hi, I guess I have a question for the doctor. I think my brother and I are both adopted. I'm not sure. When we were younger, we were much more separate from each other, but as we both have gotten older, we've grown closer together. I might add that my father's a psychologist, too. But I'm not sure, do you think that being adopted has brought both of us closer together and the need of support of not knowing our natural parents?
I think that's an excellent question because, in fact, you would expect it to bring you closer together after you've grown up. You might expect as adopted kids when you're younger to have a little bit of an edge in terms of the competition for favorite child, if you will. There might be a little bit of tension around that. Which of us is the more adopted, if you will? But as you get older and you begin to discover that shared connection in a way that basically bonds you, quite, I would assume, like these two twins, these guys. There's a bonding about that, the intensity of the shared experience that very few of your peers, your friends, other people know much about, because a lot of kids don't know much about being adopted.
When we come back, we have to break, but I'm interested, based on your experience, if what we heard from Joe and Debbie is common, that the brother learns about girls from the sister and vice versa, when we continue after this.
Today, 18 million eat this as bread. 55 million eat this. 240 million eat this. But only 8 million eat this as bread. These people produce more safe cars and blonde beauties. They invented the Nobel Prize and the zipper. They also play better tennis, and they watch less television. That's the Swedish way. Wasa crisp bread. You can have it in America.
What you see here is not a man who's disabled, but a man who's simply dad. Give the power to overcome. Give to Easter Seals.
There's a family in Boston who regularly stop in to share their family life with a neighbor. And nearby, a group of young people whose social lives include helping people do their taxes for nothing. And don't forget the banker from Lynn, whose best hours are spent helping at a shelter in his town. Who benefits more when people take time to care, the giver or the receiver? Truth is, we all do.
I have a dream.
You dreamed. You struggled. You came together and were heard. But in the last presidential election, 8 million black Americans weren't heard from. Here. Democracy. It can't be of the people and for the people if it's not by the people. Vote.
We're back. If you're just joining us, we're talking about and with brothers and sisters. And David, how common is it that, as with Joe and Deb, you learn about the opposite sex, the people that you're most likely to be attracted to and maybe take for mates from your brother and sister?
I think a considerable amount of learning goes into that process, because boys and girls are separate still in many of their activities as kids in elementary school and those kinds of things. But they're not separate in the household. They're bouncing into each other and banging off each other all the time, and therefore our impressions about what the opposite sex is like and how they work and what they do and what they don't do are really formed very early, and we develop our own set of prejudices. My guess is that if we really talked a lot, we'd discover that some of the things that attract you to each of your current partners really go right back to some of the things that you liked about each other way back when.
Now, let me ask, does it ever feel slightly incestuous when you look to your mate, your partner, and see your brother or sister there?
Oh, I do. I do.
Oh, you do?
Well, not the extreme there,
You
but...
shouldn't tell everything on TV.
Well, it'll edit. Yeah, I find the girl that I'm with now, I find a lot in my sister. I see and look in her eyes, and I see how much she's like my sister.
Doesn't that feel odd at some points in a romantic situation?
Sometimes, but I don't think about it.
Think about a baseball game or something, right?
Yeah, but I feel I had the advantage of having a sister when I was younger. or growing up with one, because I wouldn't know what it was like for girls, why they do the things they do. Why do they spend hours in the bathroom? Why do they put makeup on? Why do they on the phone 4 hours a night? And this, you know, as I get older, I realize this is what girls do, and you accept it. You know, some guys can't accept why girls do what they do. It's my fortunate advantage that I did that.
To me, all tall, blonde men are brothers.
They are?
Any of my girlfriends that are married to tall, blonde men are a brother image to me. A short, dark guy, well, watch out. Then send me home. But one of the things I wanted to say about my brother, how he helped me accept my disability, is because he ignored it. And one day in particular, I was used to my legs being messed up, and then my arm got messed up. And he had to carry me at one point from either my bed to a chair or whatever, I don't remember. And I was sputtering about this new scar, and oh, ooh, Ma won't let me have plastic surgery, and I'm sputtering. He said, stop sticking it up my nose, and I won't think about it. And it sounded a little harsh at the moment, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized, yeah, if you don't talk about it, nobody else can pay attention to you either. And it might sound like he was being harsh with me, but it was total acceptance, like when your sister wanted to get in with you guys.
Was that different than what your parent or parents were offering to you? Did it have more impact somehow? When Mom and Dad explained the birds and the bees, did it make less sense than when your brother or sister told you, if they did?
I don't think our parents ever mentioned the birds and bees to us.
No, my parents didn't, but I remember my brother, he never knew this. I don't believe I've ever told him. I learned a great deal. When he and his buddies were sitting in the kitchen, they always, if the kitchen door was shut, you listened. Because there was a great deal of information going on there.
It's almost like public television, too, probably.
Yes, probably.
How many of you feel like you learned a lot from your brothers or sisters about the opposite sex, about dating, about who you might pick for your mate? Anybody over here? Yeah, let me go over here first, yeah.
The men that she had trouble with and the things that I had an older sister and a younger sister, but I watched my older sister, and if she had trouble here and there with boys, I knew who to stay away from, what kind of guys.
Did any of you ever feel put off to the opposite sex because of your brother and sister's experiences? Yeah.
No, I just had 4 brothers, and I never thought men were very interesting when we were kids. I mean, they were all good looking. They used to bring home all these girls and everything, but to me, boys were just pains.
So your 4 brothers nullified men as a sexual image in your mind?
True.
for a long time?
Till I was about 14.
That's an interesting slant, which I hadn't considered. There might be times where your sexual yearnings and growth is actually stunted by your brother or sister. Does that come up?
Well, if you have a very negative, bad feeling about your set of brothers, which I hope they're not listening, right? You know, if you have that experience, you are going to take that into the dating world. I mean, part of what we're listening to as we talk is the fact that people learn about how to do the business of being with people from their siblings. Yeah, much more so than they learn from their parents. They learn, or even from their classmates, because it's oftentimes in the sibling world kind of like, you know, it's a dog eat world, and that takes a lot of energy and a lot of compromise and a lot of bouncing off each other, and therefore a lot of learning.
Okay, we have to break. We'll be right back. We'll get to you right after this. Stay with us.
Make the best choice this November by making the informed choice tonight. With focus reports on the people and issues shaping the election. With analysis of the political strategies behind the headlines. With exclusive nightly information, once available only to campaign insiders. And with the experience of the Eyewitness News team, on the trail with all the candidates. TV4, make it your choice this election year.
Eyewitness News Decision 88 coverage from WBZ TV4.
Find out what you can do in school today. For a free pamphlet, write to this address. Share your talents with our children. There are many ways to take the time to care.
Got a minute? I just can't afford to pay for college.
Well, you might want to consider the Army National Guard. They offer 100% free tuition at any state-funded college or university in Massachusetts.
Thanks, Mr. Burnett.
That's Sergeant Burnett. I bet you didn't know that I was in the National Guard. I've been in the National Guard now.
Bob Lobel, sports anchor on WBZ Channel 4, plays a lot of golf for New England charities. Dave Murray, chief meteorologist for the station, also plays a lot of golf for charity. As does Don Shane, another TV4 sports reporter. Truth is, the three of them have helped raise a lot of money for charity. And there's no telling what they've done for the great game of golf.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you reached a verdict?
The American jury is about to celebrate a birthday, the 200th birthday of the Constitution. For 200 years, the Constitution has guaranteed the jury system. Americans from every walk of life coming together to decide justice, to reaffirm our Constitution. The jury, join them in celebrating this important birthday.
Your Honor, we have a verdict.
We are back. Go ahead. You wanted to get something in
I
here.
just wanted to say to my sister, my best friend, that some of the things that she was saying before about the brothers.
Were these four guys, were they bozos
They were my
or what?
brothers,
I know
too.
that.
Yeah.
And what did you think of them?
I felt the same way she did. And the nicest thing, one of the many nicest things she's done for me is that we also had, unfortunately, a lot of violence in our home. And my sister always said, and it helped when I chose a mate, always have enough respect for yourself and don't ever let anyone beat you up or abuse you. And that was something that was a real positive effect on me. And we both picked very nice men for husbands.
Good, good. Do you think that the wisdom that you were able to give each other was unparalleled by anybody else in your life? I mean, did you get the best learnings from each other, do you think?
Learning, support, love, everything from each other. I don't think we could have existed without each other. I don't think we'd be here today without each other.
That's great.
It's quite a testimony.
Yeah.
That is quite a testimony.
Yeah, I feel I happen to be a twin. I have a twin brother, and I'm married to Steve up there. And my brother and I were very close, and I feel like I couldn't have existed without him. I look at people who grow up by themselves basically, or not even only children, but don't have twins, do a twin brother or sister, and I think, how do they do that? How do they exist? And I'm so close to my twin brother, and then to marry someone who just wants to ignore his brother. It was a kind of a shock. Like I couldn't understand it for a while.
Has she been a help in that regard for you?
Oh, yes. In fact, it helped me to marry into her family because I had more brothers and sisters, you see, and normal brothers and sisters. And that helped me see all of a sudden I'd be at a table and couldn't get a word in edgewise. And yet I was a talker because I was usually alone or Billy was away or something like this. So it was good for me.
I think we have
a healthy family with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So in a way, I almost picked it on that.
I think we have a caller who doesn't agree that there's safety in numbers. Let's go to the phones again. Hi, you're on People Are Talking.
Hello, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm 33 years old, and I'm a middle child of a family of 10. And I still feel that they team up on me, mostly my brothers, led by my oldest brother, who claims that I'm a bit like my father. And I'm just wondering how I can deal with this. I want to change it, and I'm not happy with it.
So you're not unlike what Stephen was just saying, a big family to you is just more chance to be verbally abused.
It's hell, yeah.
It's hell, okay. Get right down to basics there. Can you change something like that?
I think that what I'd want the caller to do is to think about what would happen if he invited people to criticize him. People, like the older brother who probably has a lot to say all the time. If he called them up once a month and said, give me some pointers, give me some tips, I'll bet the older brother would be speechless after about 3 calls.
Joe?
I want to address a question to David. Do you feel that the birth order, how they stereotype the oldest is quiet, mature faster, the middle one's, overwhelming, over talkative, whatever? Do you feel that? How do you feel about that?
Well, the birth order is a very powerful force in defining
like in a
all of our personalities. So that, for example, you can begin to look at how people pair up. Older brothers oftentimes marry younger sisters. Middle children will tend to gravitate towards each other because the roles do get relatively fixed, and they're very powerful.
What about in the case of the lady out here? She has 11 brothers and sisters.
Yeah, who was it over here? Yeah, 11 brothers and sisters.
Do you feel that you have a personality like someone else in your family?
Yeah,
or resembles you?
I do, yeah. I was going to say, my husband there's only one brother. He only has one brother, and the thing he loved about our family was the big gatherings. When we get together, birthday parties are big. For him, everything was so small. When we go to a wedding in his side of the family, it's just a small little group of people. For us, there's 100 people that are our relatives, and it's great. You can always find someone to talk to and do things with.
So our caller does not feel as if he only got a side glance there. Would that be the key thing, or is there anything else that we can offer to him to make it better?
I think the key thing is for him to take a look at why do those people, his brothers or sisters who are critical, do they still have power over him? Why does what they have to say still count? So what I'd want him to do is think about, what is it that allows this guy who's critical to still have that kind of influence?
One thing that I was thinking of during the break there, the whole idea of a family that's all the same sex of siblings, all girls, all boys, no matter the number. Do they mature less quickly because they don't have that other perspective as Joe and Deb have?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think they would mature less quickly per se, but they'll tend to have some tensions around getting into marriage and other opposite sex relationships because they really, as you said, they'll have a lot of feelings. An all man household, an all male household, will have a lot of tension around learning how to live with a female household, inside a female household. So you get the learnings skewed in a certain way, and then you're going to have a whole lot of sort of makeup lessons, if you will, as you go along, because an all-boy household is going to be quite an intriguing experience for a woman to marry into if she's going to marry a guy from that household.
Wendell?
Yeah, I just wanted to...
It is Wendell, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
You got it right. Hey, you're 50% right.
That's right, that's right.
Just want to backtrack a second. You were mentioning something about the older brother being sort of like the reserved, quiet, but strong one. With our family, we sort of split it right in the middle. I was the quiet and reserved, and he was more or less outgoing and the strong one.
All right, who's oldest here?
He is by 1 minute.
By a minute. Does it make a difference?
It makes a lot of difference. Well, it makes a difference to me because I claim the right to be the oldest in the family. He claims the birthright. And I tell everybody, if this were England and I were the prince, you'd be dead meat, that type of thing. But when it comes right down to it, our younger sister would look at the both of us and say, there is no difference. So you couldn't get away with, I tried to get away with a lot. Yeah. You try to get these little things like, I'm the oldest, so you sweep the floor, or you do this, or you do that. And I found out very quickly, because they caught on quick, that it doesn't work all the time. If there's an age difference, like a couple of years, then the older brother has something to hold over the kid.
But
when you
60
get into
seconds,
my school,
yeah, 60 seconds doesn't quite do it.
Right.
Stephen?
I was just going to say, my wife is of twins, her brother, and she was born 1 minute, 5 minutes later.
Minutes. You're younger.
And it's the same situation as these two. She's the quiet one, and he's the more aggressive. And because of my brother not being there, the older brother, but because of his problem,
but being younger,
I had to be the older brother, and I resented taking that position of being the youngest.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I had a problem about therapy with talking it out, was that I wanted to be the youngest. I wanted to be the spoiled one. And here this guy was taken away from me.
And he's the oldest, and that's not supposed to be his
Yes.
fault. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Willie, look at this. There's something big happening at Rent Center.
What? It's the biggest event in Rent-A-Center history. The guaranteed lowest price on the Sanyo Home Entertainment Center, loaded with a stereo color TV, VCR, and complete stereo system, all in this custom cabinet with one remote control. Only $25.99 a week.
Hey, Lester, this sounds great. Let's go. Lester. Lester. Did he leave without me?
For the guaranteed lowest price, call Rent-A-Center today.
Let me mail you this free $200 rebate check, good toward the purchase of any original Craftmatic Model 1 adjustable bed.
By the end of the day, my shoulders and feet just kill me. So I used my free $200 rebate check to get relief with a new Craftmatic adjustable bed.
I have a bad back, so when I got my free rebate check, I decided to get a Craftmatic. Now, no more back pain.
My husband and I were suffering from flatbed-caused aches and pains. So we used our $200 rebate check to get a Craftmatic adjustable bed. It was just what the doctor ordered.
Call toll-free so I can mail you your free $200 rebate check. Call to get your free rebate check now.
Call 1-800-821-2102. That's 1-800-821-2102. Toll free. Call 1-800-821-2102.
It's a family tradition. Come on, the feud is back. The gang's all here for a friendly competition. Come on, the feud is back. And you know you'll get a thrill.
Because the survey says you will.
The feud is back and it's gonna leave you smiling. Come on, the feud is back. Come on, the feud.
4:30 weekdays, starting Monday, October 3rd. All right, we are back. You wanted to get a question in here.
I just wanted to ask the doctor if the roles ever change, like as you get older, as I was telling you. My younger brother, who was like 13 months younger, but who is 50 years old, that I always treat like my little brother, who he yelled at me and said, "Will you stop treating me like your little brother?" Does it change ever?
I think it changes with hard work, actually. It really changes with a willingness to turn around and say to your brother, "Do I really do that?" I mean, maybe we don't have to do that so much anymore, because basically that all comes very naturally. I mean, I would guess that most of us up here in sibling relationships would say, yeah, we revert back to our form. So it actually takes hard work. It takes a willingness to really say, let's try not to simply do what's on automatic pilot. Let's try and be different. I'll just get to know you, and you get to know me, and then we'll begin to see where friendship begins, as opposed to just roles being played off each other.
And do you think there's ever guilt if you don't like your brother or sister? You don't always have to be friends, do you?
There's a lot of guilt in that.
There's a lot of guilt, particularly if you've never tried. Particularly if you haven't tried to do what you and your brother might or might not succeed at, which is to work it out. But if you try and you end up finding out that you're not too compatible, then it's okay to let it go usually. But if you've never tried, then the feeling of, I really don't like that person. Christmas again, and I got to go to their house. That feeling is a feeling that a lot of people suffer with.
What's the longest you've ever thought that Deb or Joe? What's the longest you ever thought the other was a real goofball? Just didn't like him at all.
I basically always liked him. He was always, he more or less, he went through that stage when get away, I don't want anything to do with you. But
I don't think we really had a period of time where we didn't like each other.
We had our differences.
I don't think it would be normal if you didn't like your sister at one point in time. Just grow up through it.
Okay. You want to say something?
Yeah. If you have a brother or sister who's close enough to your age, like I have, where you're hanging around together, then I feel fortunate that you have someone there to give you the opportunity to give you feedback as how you come across to other people and how people perceive you.
The perception I'm getting from this, and I'd be interested in all of your reactions, and for you who are parents in the audience here and at home, parents might have an inflated sense of how important their relationship with their kids is compared to the brothers and sisters.
Well, I know you asked one time, did we ever have the feeling we wished that the brother or sister wasn't around? And I know now that I would not be the shy, quiet little person I am. I would have been even worse. I would have really been up a stump because he gave me acceptance through him and his friends. And the only thing, and my husband and I have talked about this, I have to go first. I can't imagine surviving without knowing my brother's someplace, even though we don't live in the same state any longer.
I want to thank you for an enlightening hour for many, I'm sure, and have a good weekend, everybody. How about a hand for our panel?
Autograph later. Autograph later.